Uh, Hi everyone, I am Akash Yadav. I have been working as data scientist for past couple of years, more than 4 to 5 years, and I have a mixture of industry experience. I also have research experience. I have also presented research in international conference, right? And I am also a graduate of Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, right? So as you have seen from the title of video, we'll be uh, discussing about the roadmap that you can follow for getting into this occupation like data scientist, ML engineer, or AI engineer, right? So yeah, so basically, right, yeah, so basically, uh, first of all, you when we are discussing about this roadmap, we need to clear our agenda, right? So I'm assuming the agenda is to get a job, right? To clear the interviews basically, right? I mean, if your agenda is, let's say, getting a paper published, right, getting a, you know maybe a starting a company, so that kind of roadmap for those profile is little bit different. For this profile, we are for this current video, we are only discussing the roadmap just to clear the interview and get a good job, right? So now, in order to clear an interview, what should be your roadmap be? Now, as you can see from the screen, right, majority of your uh, interview would be in these topic itself only, right? I can add ML ops also, and in ML ops basically those deployment and all of those things would come into play, right? Uh, So yeah, but I'll make a separate video about how to clear an interview and what things you should consider. But before that, how can you prepare for this job, and how first of all, in order to create a resume, you should have certain background in this, right? I mean, you can't just write anything in your resume, right? You need to have certain clarity, like what should you prepare, right? What should you expect in the interview, right? Those sort of things. So uh, okay, so in every major interviews, right, let's say there are around 3 to 4 rounds of interview, right? 3 to 4 rounds, right? First round uh, in companies is usually online assessment, right? And in online assessment, what questions you can get in online assessment, the topic that I have mentioned here, right, all of these topics are usually present, right? So if these topics are not covered, you will be rejected in first round itself, right? And in particularly in first round, most of your weightage is given to these two, or like DSA, right? If you're now this Python, PySpark, or PyTorch Ansible, and I have written this in hierarchy itself, right? You should be extremely familiar with Python, right? I mean, as of so today is like March 2025. So right now we are using Python mostly, right, in this field. So now Rust is coming up, but in most of the industry, Python is being used, right? So Python is the go-to. If you don't know Python or SQL, right, you will be rejected in first round itself only, right? uh, Along with that, there are certain companies that require DSA. There are certain companies which don't require DSA, right? But uh, you have to prepare DSA, right, in order to climb up the ladder, right? Without DSA, you can't move forward, right? So you can, I mean, depending on your career experience, right, you can maybe mm, be a little less experienced in these two, right? PySpark or PyStorch, right? But your Python should be great, right? Uh, yeah. Then SQL and MySQL, anything, right? After that, basically, if when you are, let's say you are prepared in Python, you are prepared in SQL, and you have done, couple of TSA question, and now I'm assuming you have basic knowledge of all these topics. So let's say you clear the first round, right? Second round is basically mostly your basics again, Python, SQL, TSA, right? Plus your resume, and what is there in resume? Your project, right? Plus now, so your ML, DL, and your NLP concepts, right? So most of the second round is kind of, so basic, like this basic only, right? So most of your second rounds are kind of, suffices these uh, three topics basically, right? Certain basic Python, basic SQL, right? If you have written PySpark, PyStar, PyTorch in your resume, then the basic of that, then projects, and then maybe MLDL concepts, right? uh, Third round can, like, it depends on your case study. It can be your case study, it can be, you know again, your project, right? And again your maybe in depth, you know in depth, basically any of your algorithm, anything that you have basically in algorithm that you have used in your CV or in your project, right? uh, then basically, now it depends on stages of your company, right? If you are interviewing for, let's say, Amazon, Meta or something, right, you might have one or more two round, but usually in most of the companies the three are round, and then these three rounds are there, and then HR discussion also, right? uh, but now, as you have seen, now you can understand the importance of these three. If these three you are not very clear, you will be rejected in first round itself, right? Now let's say you are clear in this, you are clear in this, you are clear in this, right? We will discuss in later videos, like what resources to follow, how do we study these, right? We will cover that in the in a separate video, but today agenda is what should we study, right? Now, uh, like, I have given multiple interviews in like large scale companies, right? Big MNCs, small startups, right? Probability statistics are asked, but like basic, if asked. Otherwise, like, they usually don't ask, right? Like, but it's not like you should be, you shouldn't know these topics, right? Because these probability stats and even maths, calculus, linear algebra, all of these things, these uh, they provide you the base, right? They provide you base to understand these, these complex topics, right? If these this base is not clear, right? And in addition to this, I mean, these six kind of topics are not clear, then it will be very hard for you to understand, these things, right? So it's very crucial that you complete all of these, right? But for interview perspective, uh, you know questions in second or third or fourth round from these topics are asked, but not to that extent. I mean, they are asked, but uh, uh, not too much questions, right? uh, Most of the focus is maybe, most of the focus is on these kind of topics that I have mentioned, right? But you can't, like I'm repeating again, you can't ignore these topics. It might be possible that a person interviewer might be from, let's say, stats background, or might be from this background, so he will that person will ask you from this only, right? Then is your uh, so again, coming up, so my background is from engineering background, right? Like I said, from my Kharagpur, right? So from engineering background, it's understood that uh, I am not very, uh, you can say, expert in these two topics. But my friends who are from stats and stats background, uh, most of the interviews, they are being asked questions from these two topics, basically because their educational background is in stats, right? But my entire thesis and my experience has been around modifying, or these algos from ML or DL algos, right? So most of my interviews have been focused on these, right? So most of my interview has been focused on these because my educational background and my work has been in this kind of area, right? That's why. But yeah, so after you are kind of done with this, right? uh, ML algos, or ML, by ML I mean classical, right? Classical ML or deep learning algos, or now NLP, generative AI, kind of in the same domain, but yeah, you understand, right? You have to be clear about these, right? You need to study these, and it's not like there's a reason why I have written in this hierarchy, right? You can't, you suppose you don't know ML, you just started reading ML ops, or you don't know deep learning, you started learning NLP. This kind of you know this will not work. You will not be able to understand. First of all, learn ML, right? And in ML, what do you need to learn? Linear regression, uh, logistic regression, right? I mean, these kind of topics: SVM, decision trees, random forest, boosting, XGBoost, cat boost, right? Gradient boosting, right? um, yeah. Maybe certain other kind of topics like bias variance, bias variance, and then um, maybe regularization kind of stuff, feature selection, feature extraction, right? um Hyperparameter tuning, right? So these are kind of uh, classical ML concepts, right? You need to be familiar, right? S, and I've almost forgot clustering, right? So these kind of projects, I mean, these kind of topics are very necessary before moving on, right? You can kind of in SVM is not nowadays not even used, right? So you can uh, skip this. Also there are, I forgot, like PCA, LDA, those these kind of things you can use. So you get the gist, right? I mean if you google it, you will also get more topics, but yeah. uh, then in deep learning, kind of neural networks and kind of CNNs, and right, those kind of uh, like encoder decoders, right? I mean, I can include here only right, an encoder decoder, right? RNNs, LSTMs, right? Transformers, um, I mean, the kind of algo in NLP deep learning, it's like very high, right? So cans and so on, right? So you get the idea, right? Then after you are kind of, so I might have missed some of the algos, but you can Google it, right? But my point is, like, these kind of algorithms you need to study, right? Because in the interview, I guarantee your interview would be, these only. I mean, I forgot the most important part: gradient descent, right? Kind of, because there are multiple types of gradient descent and so on, right? Yeah. So most I'll so what I'll do, I'll for each of these topics, I'll make a separate video, and I'll mention the resources in that video. uh, you know uh, I'll mention the resources, I'll mention the topics and how to study, where to study, how to practice, everything, right? But you know but the key agenda is, of the you have to follow this kind of pattern: ML, deep learning, and then NLP. Then if you get time, ML ops, right? uh, and in ML ops, basically, Docker, Git, uh, ML flow, right? uh, TVC and so on, right? Or maybe Kubernetes, some cloud platform, right? As maybe Azure or your GCP or something, right? So as you can see from the video, from this slide, uh, you need, it doesn't matter you are going for this or this or this, you will be asked, I mean, these topics, all right? You need to be clear on, Python, you need to be clear on SQL, you need to be clear on DSA, and then MLDL and these algorithms, right? But what's the kind of difference between these, right? Difference will be that the ML engineer will be, uh, his profile will be more heavy towards kind of software, right? His profile would be more, or he would be asked more, questions toward ML pipelines or sort of things, right? uh, Pipeline, how maintaining, or uh, or maybe deployment, right? Those kind of things. Data scientist kind of profile would be there for developing these models, right? Developing the models, developing the basically entire algo, right? Basically thinking that what should be there, right? Their ML engineer or AI engineer, I like AI engineer, the term has been recently developed due to this LLM and also on, right? But mostly these are the same thing, right? Right. But nowadays what is happening, that in most of the companies, like, all of this is kind of like same. Like, a DS is devising the solution, DS is maintaining the pipeline, he is deploying it, and he is like maintaining from end to end, right? So this kind of terminologies are no longer, I mean, there's not much real difference in the industry, right? Okay. So yeah. So one more thing I forgot to mention, that actually preparing for all of this actually depends on your career stage as well, right? uh, I mean, see, if you are, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 or something, maybe 2 to 4 or something like that, right? Experience, right? You're in, it is like assumed that all, like, all above topics, right? You are like very, uh, you are kind of good in above topics, right? Right. So what's the focus here? like what's the focus point here? Focus point here is your project, right? I have given and taken like more than 100 interviews, and it most of, even if I like, let's say one or two DSA question I missed, right? That's okay. My focus like was heavily on project, what project I have implemented in industry, right? What was the impact, right? How did I implement it, right? So when your like experience increases, right, project matters, right? Project matters. But your, let's say your experience is low, right? And let's say you're maybe a kind of fresher or in college, right? Then these kind of basics matter, right? Your basics matter, right? uh, but if you're, if you have a very extremely good project, right? If you have, your basics are anyways clear, and if your project, you have project, right, a very good project, then your like profile will be like extremely like, your chances of getting shortlisting or getting clear the interview is very high, right? But uh, in, you might have noticed the difference between like software developers and DS kind of profiles is that in most of their uh, interviews, DSA or system design, those kind of questions are very heavily asked, right? But in our this domain projects, try to do as many projects and as possible, right? But obviously after clearing your basics, right? So that's it. If you find this video helpful, please share and like the video, and please do subscribe. And in the next video, what I'll do is I'll take each of the point and mention what, how do I study it, how do we, what resources to follow, right? What should we do step by step to be expert in that kind of topic, right? Okay, thank you, see you.